The Battle of Britain, the Second World War air campaign of the German air forces, opposing the United Kingdom in hopes of gaining air superiority over the Royal Air Force. This is the first major battle to be fought entirely by air forces, and also holds the record for the largest and most sustained aerial bombing attack to the date occurred. The main targets of this attack were the coastal transport and convoys and shipping centers, including Portsmouth, the second largest city in the ceremonial area of Old Hampshire on the coast of England. After the initial attacks, a month passes and the attacks are shifted from the main targets to the Royal Air Force airfields and infrastructures. They also attacked air factories in an attempt to cripple the number of planes England could make in their factories. It was a major defeat and crucial turning point in the war for Germany. Germany did not achieve their goals of destroying British air defenses or forcing the UK to negotiate an armistice. They were also willing to accept surrender. This victory for the UK rendered Hitler's threat to launch Operation Sea Lion moot. Operation Sea Lion would have consisted of an amphibious and airborne invasion of Britain. The defense of Hong Kong. Canadians fight their first battle of the war defending the British Crown colony of Hong Kong. They defended against the Japanese in December of 1941. The Canadian soldiers fought against overwhelming odds of defeat, but had the courage to fight as if they were seasoned veterans. Even though most soldiers had very limited military training and the crippling odds of defeat, the Canadian forces refused to surrender, and until they were overrun, they were either killed or taken as prisoners of war. This battle had one of the highest casualty rates in World War II, which was over 50%. 1,975 Canadians fought for the defense of Hong Kong, 290 were killed, 264 were taken as prisoners of war, and the total death toll was 554, plus around 500 that were wounded. The Battle of Dieppe. It was a World War II Allied attack on the port of Dieppe, which was occupied by Germans. The battle took place on the north coast of France on August 19, 1942. It began at 5 a.m., and by 10:50 a.m. the Allied commanders had no other choice but to call a retreat. In the battle, over 6,000 infantry, mostly Canadians, fought and were supported by a strong Royal Navy and a smaller Royal Air Force, along with the Canadian Armoured Regiment. The Italian Campaign. The name of the Allied operations that went on in and around Italy during World War II. They started in 1943 and continued to the end of the war. The estimated death toll between September 1943 and April 1945 is around 60,000 Allied and 50,000 German deaths. The overall Allied casualty count during the Italy campaign was 320,000, and the corresponding Axis figure was about 336,650. The Italian campaign cost the most in terms of lives and wounded soldiers compared to any campaign in the West. Battle of Ortona. This battle was a small but very fierce battle. It was fought between a battalion of German paratroopers and the 1st Canadian Infantry Division on command of Major General Chris Folks. The battle was nicknamed Little Stalingrad because of the deadly close-quarters combat that went on during the battle. It took place in a small town named Ortona, which had a population of 10,000. The Normandy Landings, or also known as D-Day. The Normandy landings were codenamed Operation Neptune, and the name for the landing operations of the Allied invasion of Normandy during the Operation Overlord. The landing started on June 6, 1944 at 2 a.m., which is when paratroopers dropped in to protect the landing forces. Around 75 minutes later, 2,000 bombers began to pound the German defenses on the beaches. 2.5 million soldiers gathered for this operation to take place, including over 30,000 Canadians. The main objective of this battle was to cut the bridges on the Dives and Devet rivers to protect the left flank of the 9th Parachute Battalion as it is attacked German artillery position in Merville. Leonard Burchell, a soldier in the Royal Canadian Air Force who warned of a Japanese attack on an island named Ceylon during World War II. He saved many lives by warning his fellow soldiers, only to be shot down and captured as a prisoner of war for the rest of World War II. Causes of World War II. 1. The Treaty of Versailles. The Treaty of Versailles was what made the end of World War I. It was very unfair to Germany, but they had no choice but to accept it. Then, many years later, the citizens complained that they were dissatisfied with their German government and wanted to elect someone to rip up the treaty, and that man's name was Adolf Hitler. Number 2. The League of Nations was a failure. The League was made to keep world peace within the countries, and problems would be solved with words, and if problems arose, the countries would stop trading with the country that was causing the problems. What caused it to fail was when Japan raided a mineral-rich area in China and refused to retract their armies when the League told them to do so. Even though Japan did not listen, the League continued to trade with them, as the depression was too bad to stop trading. Number 3. Hitler built his forces much stronger than he was allowed to. He made new alliances and invaded the land he lost with the treaty, and then Czechoslovakia. Britain and France agreed that if Hitler took further action and tried to invade Poland, they would utilize their forces and take military action against Hitler. The tension between English and French Canadians during the war was high because English Canadians voted that there would be a mandatory military service for those who qualified, and the French who opposed their opinions. Eventually, why we went to war, Canada declared war on Germany a week after Britain did. After Hitler invaded Poland and all 3 Allied countries declared war, Canadian Parliament decided to fight alongside the Allied forces.